So today we're going to talk about identifying your customer's learning style. This will help you with communicating and building that rapport with customers, and something you may notice not only at work, but in your personal life as well. So when we talk about learning modalities, you'll see that great salespeople, they don't give the same pitch or presentation over and over again. It may be the same information, but it's going to be presented differently depending on your customer. A lot of times you'll find yourself mirroring your customer, and this will help you understand why you're doing that a little bit more. Custom positioning, as they refer to it, isn't always enough to close a sale, but you can't go wrong playing to your strengths. So the best way to sell your prospect is to change your presentation based on their learning style. Everybody processes information differently. You probably noticed that within your peer groups, within your family, your friends, your community. A presentation that captivates one person may be utterly boring to someone else or confusing, and vice versa. We don't want to risk losing a sale because we presented information in the wrong way for our customer to capture. So optimizing your selling strategy to fit these three major learning styles will definitely help increase your volume and your close rate. So we're going to review your visual learner, your kinesthetic learner, and your auditory learner. So with your visual learner, there are about 38% of consumers that are visual learners. They use their eyes to receive information. They're going to be better with pictures or charts, the printouts of the furniture, images, things like that. Your auditory learner is going to heavily listen to the words that you say and how you say it. They listen to all of the detailed explanations, and that's what registers the best for those customers. 34% of your consumers are kinesthetic or physical learners. They're going to come in, they're going to be the ones that feel and touch all the fabrics. They're going to touch all the pieces of furniture. They will easily sit down and everything. They use that sense of feel to process their information. So understanding a visual learner. Visual learners, as their label suggests, they learn best through seeing ideas and concepts. So if you can get them a picture of something, if they can look at the actual item on the floor, they may be the customer that's taking a lot of pictures of things to make sure that they remember what they looked at. If there's a diagram of something that will help them, give them a copy of that, because that's how they're going to retain that information and absorb it. You'll notice them go through the store. They like to take detailed notes. So they may be the customer that's writing everything down because they can see their own thoughts on paper. And they will likely watch your body language and your facial expression. So being aware of your body language, because it will communicate more to this particular customer than a lot of other learning styles. You'll hear common phrases from them that refer to sight. So let's look at things differently. I'd like to get a different perspective, or I can't quite picture it. They're trying to imagine it visually in their mind. And so those are common things that you'll see from your visual learner. Selling to a visual learner, they can take in a lot of information at one time. So you don't have to be afraid with this customer to get very detailed and give them a lot of information. Now be cautious, because not all of your learning styles can handle that much information. But this consumer can. Like I said, you want to give them handouts to enhance your presentation. These are people, when you're talking about the design service, that those cards are going to be very impactful. Any supplemental materials that you have can also be helpful. If you are communicating with these customers via email and text message or phone, text and email will be a stronger form of communication, and any attachments that you can send where they can print it out and look at it and review it will help them register information a little bit better. These are also your customers that those sectional tear sheets will be very helpful for. For your auditory learner, completely different. Auditory learners are most receptive to information they can hear. So they are your talkers. They're the ones that want to talk through how something works. They want to hear you repeat the same thing 3 or 4 times usually, to make sure that it's the same information, that they're hearing you clearly. Written information is not especially helpful for your heavy auditory learners. They usually will read it aloud if you do have something that's in writing. or you'll see them mouth the words to themselves so that they can hear it in their own mind. A lot of times they will mirror your speech pattern. So they will repeat back to you what you've said to them to make sure they're on the same page, like I mentioned. And they may not look at you while you're talking because they're so focused on processing the words that they're just kind of in a blank stare, not really looking at anything because they're so focused on that part of gathering information. You'll hear phrases from them like, oh, that rings a bell, that sounds about right, that's music to my ears. Again, all phrases that refer to their ears and hearing something. These are customers, as you're communicating with them, if they call on the phone, they want you to call them back because that written word is not going to be as impactful for them. So make sure if you do catch this, make a note for yourself that they're a phone call customer. They're the ones that really want to hear from you verbally. Like I said, these are your talking customers. Their whole sales interaction will feel a lot more like just a genuine conversation. And so you want to be able to present your information that way. These are the customers that what you say and how you say it will be critical in their sales process. If you do communication with these customers that is written, you want to make sure it's a bullet point, concise list so that it's short and sweet and they don't have a whole lot of, other sound per se in the mix with them. Your third learning style are your kinesthetic customers. So your kinesthetic customers or your physical learners are the people that grasp through touch and feel. They want to explore a lot of things by themselves. Many times your customers that come in and say, I'm just looking, are your kinesthetic customers. They don't necessarily want a salesperson guide right away. They want to walk through, they want to touch, they want to feel. That doesn't mean that they don't need your help. It's just that that's how they want to process their new environment first before they come for help. These customers are going to be your customers that you have to reapproach. And if you can hand them something physically, a bottle of water, a printout card for your design program, if they've sat and looked at the same thing for 5 minutes, print out a tear sheet or grab one of the tear sheets for a sectional if it's a modular group and hand them something. That's how they're going to respond and process information better. They sometimes come across a little bit scattered because they're trying to process information with a different side of their brain while you're talking to them. They will get half sentences out or fragments of pieces. They'll seem very off pace, and sometimes that can be very challenging to work with. The best advice I have for these customers is slow them down and let them process that information. If you can show them something, your demonstration pieces here are huge. Having them try all of the features are going to be what resonate to these customers the most. They tend to use large hand gestures. So you'll sometimes be able to identify them just in the way that they're talking if they come in with someone else. And that is kind of a big giveaway. Common phrases to listen for. That feels right to me. My gut is telling me whatever, or stay in touch. Again, all things that focus on feeling and tactile with this customer. Selling to your kinesthetic customer. So you want to engage them by getting them involved. Like I said, if you can do a demonstration instead of talking about a feature with them, that's going to resonate more. If you can hand them something into the palm of their hand from you, that will help them. They may not look at it, but they'll feel that they have something. And that's the important part with this consumer. And then you want to show them and not tell them. And so when it comes to kinesthetic learners, your demonstration is key. So they're very different styles, the visual, the auditory, and kinesthetic. Your approach shouldn't rely too heavily on any one of those three selling styles. We always try to do a mix of those when communicating information. So a mix of verbal, visual, and kinesthetic cues versus guessing the wrong learning style can be detrimental to your sales interaction. But if you get a good feeling that your prospect learns a certain way, you can use some of those tips from this presentation and try and strengthen that rapport and connection that you have with your customer. You'll notice in a lot of our communication that we do with you guys as a sales team, you'll get a visual, an auditory, and hopefully in the stores, the kinesthetic. Remotely, it's hard to do kinesthetic, but when we're in the stores and when we do new hire training, we do try to incorporate all three of those learning styles so that we can communicate our information to you guys as best we can as well. So there's a little bit of a difference in these three learning styles and communication with your general customer, and it can be tweaked a little bit when you have the idea that your customer or consumer may be an in-home client. So like I said, with all your customers, identifying their learning style can help you increase your rapport and build that connection. Many of the other salespeople in the market may not be communicating information for your customer the way that they perceive it best. And if you can do that, it will set you apart from your competition. With communicating in-home, with visual customers, the postcards explaining the design program are going to be your most effective. For your auditory consumer, the detailed explanation of how the program works and why it's important for them are going to be critical. And for your kinesthetic customer, you really want to focus on the feeling that can be created once the process is done. And so it's a little bit of a different approach with each one of those learning styles and how you're presenting information. So if you feel like you're getting a lot of customers right now and you're like, I'm offering the program and they're not taking it, reflect on how you're presenting the information. If you're only talking about the design service and what it does, you're losing that kinesthetic customer, you may be losing that visual customer. If we can expand those descriptions to include all three learning styles, you may end up booking more appointments or booking better qualified appointments. As I mentioned before, your kinesthetic customer, because they focus so much on feeling and touch, sometimes they're challenging to work with. Do your best to keep them on track. A lot of times, if you listen to their words about how they're feeling, you can reiterate that back to them. And because it's their own words, they'll register that a little bit better. And then you can get further in the interaction. Something that I did not put in here, but is important to notice, that your space, your personal space that you'll see each consumer need is different. Your auditory customers usually are okay being up close and personal with you because they're listening very closely. They don't mind having someone close where they can hear them. Your visual person wants to be a little bit further back so that they can see kind of what's going on around them. And your kinesthetic customer feels everything. And so their personal space bubble is quite a bit bigger. So keep that in mind as you're working with customers too. If they're stepping closer to you, they're probably more an auditory customer. If they're stepping away from you, they may be more of a kinesthetic or visual learner. So you can kind of monitor that in body language as well and mirror that with them as you're going through your sales interaction. If you guys have questions on any of this, as always, please reach out to us. I know it's a lot to take in, but I think this is really good information, especially heading into this time of year, which can be challenging, and all the challenges we've faced in the last year. Being able to use any tools that we have to capture our customers' information and communicate better to them what's happening, I think is critical. And I hope to hear from you guys soon.